Welcome back to the Aces Let's Do It podcast. I'm your host, Dominic Archer, and we've been going over the outlook of the MLB for the 2023 season. We've covered all of the AL teams, so make sure you go ahead and check out all of those videos. In this one, we're going to be talking about the NL Central, a division that has been quoted as being the most winnable division, at least by Cub fans. And when you look at this division, there's a lot of mediocre baseball in the division. Obviously, the Cardinals are the betting favorite, and they're projected to have 91 wins, two more wins than the Yankees, according to Zips. And to me, I understand that bringing in Wilson Contreras helps them. Wilson is a solid defender, but he's a better bat. So they have that for him, and they have the two best corner infielders in baseball. The pitching staff is solid, but not great. And I can see why they're, 91 wins. When you look at the division, you can beat up on the Reds, you can beat up on the Cubs and Brewers and Pirates. There's nobody that really competes with the Cardinals in terms of talent. When you really look at it on paper, the division isn't as far. It's not as. Let's just put it this way: first and last is not as big as many people think. These are a couple of squads who can compete and not be easy out. So let's talk about those Cardinals, and then we'll move on. Like I said, Cardinals 91 wins. They have the two of the best players at their positions in Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, both MVP candidates. They have, Wilson Contreras, probably a top 10, depending on who you ask, catcher in baseball. They have some really good starting pitching. They can be one of the better staffs in all of the National League. Tyler O'Neill is a bounce back candidate out and left. Lars Nootbaar was able to come up and do some cool things. Nolan Gorman, who has all the potential in the world, and Brendan Donovan. So when you really and Tommy Edman as well. So when you really look at all those pieces, yes, they're the best team in the division, no doubt. And when you factor in, they have a top 10 farm system and the number 4 prospect in baseball, Jordan Walker, who is a third baseman and an outfielder. And if he really lights up the minor leagues this year, he could be up at the big league level sooner rather than later. He's already made it to Double A. He's hit everywhere he's gone. In 201 games, he has a 913 OPS with 33 home runs and 116 RBIs. So if he's just dominating AAA hitting, or pitching rather, we could see a call up, and things are going to get real scary, at least for a Cub fan. But when you look at the pitching staff, they have some, we'll call it interesting pitchers. Miles Michaelis obviously has been just really good his entire career with the Cardinals. Things didn't go his way to start, but he was able to find himself and come back to the big leagues and pitch really well. And he's been definitely the best pitcher on the Cardinal staff for the last couple of years. And then you have Adam Wainwright, who I don't know how to describe him outside of he's a big league pitcher. And he has been for many years. He was able to reinvent himself and was able to find longevity. And he's been a great, great pitcher, definitely one who will go down in the books as one of the best pitchers in Cardinals history. And that's saying something when Bob Gibson's on that list. But he doesn't throw hard. And a guy like Jack Flaherty, who does throw really hard, they could be hurting. And I can see a world in which the Cardinals struggle at times when it comes to the pitching. But I think they are going to be a great staff, and I think they are going to be good. But there is opportunity for them to be lackadaisical at times. When it comes to WAR, Adam Wainwright 2.8, Miles Michaelis 2.8. We talked about those guys. Helsley, great relief pitcher. Jose Quintana actually pitched 62 innings for this squad and was really good. And Jordan Montgomery was good in his short time, but, Dakota Hudson, Steven Matz, these are the bottom of the rotation guys. It's definitely the best in the division, but it's not too far off of the Cubs. And when we look at the Cubs, this is where things really start. You really start to realize that this isn't a division in which the Cardinals are going to run away with. The Cubs are projected to have 78 wins. They won 74 last year. And as a Cub fan, I think this is a team who can win 80 games just based on who they brought in, and if some of the younger guys take leaps. Um, Nico Horner led the team in WAR with 4. He'll be moving over to second base now that Dansby's on the squad. Justin Steele was a really nice surprise, left-handed pitcher. He led the Cubs in pitching WAR with 2.6, and obviously Michaelis and Wainwright are really good pitchers, and Michaelis is probably the best pitcher in the division. But Marcus Stroman's a good pitcher. They brought back Drew Smiley, who can be really solid. Justin Steele could take a step forward and be one of the best young pitchers in baseball. But someone to keep an eye on for is Hayden Wesneski. Pitched 33 innings and was just absolutely phenomenal. He's got a slider that at some point could be the best in baseball if he continues to. Made his big league debut this year, 33 innings. He struck out 25% of the batters he faced, had an ERA of 2.8 and a FIP of 320. So he wasn't just no slouch. This slider is the real deal, and he could be scary as a starter. But, the rest of the guys, Kyle Hendricks is looked at to get some innings. They brought in Jameson Taillon, who's just going to be an innings eater. Keegan Thompson will probably be bouncing back between the bullpen and starting. And when you look at the Cubs minor league system, they have some really good pitching prospects coming up, with Jordan Wicks and Cade Horton and Ben Brown. But none of those guys, outside maybe Jordan, is close to the big leagues. Except, I take that back. Ben Brown had a really good season last year after being traded from Philly. Seven games in a Cubs uniform, and he was able to. He had a 4 ERA, but it's there. He's definitely a really good pitcher and somebody that the Cubs could be leaning on in 2023. But when we talk about prospects, Pete Crow Armstrong is just phenomenal, and everybody knows that he's a great defender. The question is, can his bat come along? He's a top 30 prospect in baseball. I don't know if we'll see him at some point this year. If he really hits well at AAA, we might see him in September. But the guy or two to look out is Brennan Davis, who was probably going to be at the big leagues last year had he not had some back issues. And when you look at the stats in 2022, they're not great, but he was hurt the whole year, and hopefully Brennan can bounce back and be somebody that the Cubs can lean on in the outfield. But Alexander Canario is somebody that the Cubs are looking on. Hopefully he can come back healthy. I think he was injured towards the end of last year. But there's some guys in the minor leagues who could come up. Caleb Killian is also somebody that came up and was really good at some point in the minor leagues and then just fell apart in the big leagues. But Miguel Amaya also might come up for the Cubs as well. He's a guy who can play catcher and first base. And obviously Matt Mervis is somebody that will probably start the year with the big league club and was phenomenal, had an OPS of 984 in 137 games and had 36 home runs. So the Cubs, while a young team and looking for some talent, they're really going to look at their minor league system to produce big league at-bats and big league innings. And they're projected to win 78 games, and I think, the deep down Cub fan in me wants them to win 84, 85 and sneak in the playoffs, but realistically, I think 81 wins, 82 wins is where this club stands. And I think they're going to be better than the Brewers. Now, the Brewers are projected to have 83 wins. But, Christian Yelich is no longer an MVP candidate. I think, he's a solid big league hitter at this point in his career. No doubt. I'm not saying that Christian Yelich is a bum and doesn't belong in the big leagues. He's still a serviceable player, 2.3 WAR last year. He's a good hitter. He'll, hopefully he can stay healthy. He had, 671 plate appearances last year, so he was definitely healthy. Willy Adames played really good defense and was able to hit some as well, 4.7 WAR. But where this team really excels is with their pitching. Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff are a good 1-2 punch, especially Corbin Burns, who's just phenomenal. The bullpen is where they also find guys. Devin Williams was awesome. He's always been awesome. Eric Lauer also was able to come in and pitch some meaningful innings for them as well. When it comes to the minor league system, this is one of the better minor league systems. Or this division, I should say, has one of the better minor leagues in all of baseball. All 5 teams ranked top 15 in baseball, and 4 of them in the top 10. And the Brewers do have a couple of really good prospects. Jackson Chourio, the number 8 prospect in baseball right now. He has all of the tools. He's a big, tall guy, can hit home runs, can steal bases, can hit for an average. I mean, he is the whole package. Now, he's a couple years away from the big league, so we probably won't see him. He is 18 years old, but he made it all the way up to Double-A. Only 6 games, so I won't. His numbers aren't great, but again, 6 games. But overall, ended the year with an 880 OPS, 6'1", 165. He's got a 70 run grade and a 60 overall grade. He's going to be a great player. But 2 guys who could come up to the big leagues and stay are Garrett Mitchell, who made his big league debut, 24 years old, and 61 at-bats, 311 average, 373 OBP, and a 459 slugging with 2 home runs. He's going to command center field and be pretty good at it. And then another guy, Bryce Terang, who's probably going to make his big league debut. We've been hearing about him for a while now, former first-round draft choice in 2018. Just really good at everything. He can play shortstop, can play the outfield. He can hit for average. He can get on base. He can hit home runs when he needs to. And he's a guy who, if things at second base don't go well, he can move in there. Somebody to really keep an eye on. I think Bryce Terang is going to be a good, solid big leaguer for years to come. He's 23 years old as well. And just a quick note, the top 5 prospects in the Brewers system are all at least, besides Chourio, 22 years old. And we probably will see all 4 of their top prospects being Sal Frelick, Joey Weimer, Bryce Terang, and Garrett Mitchell in the big leagues this year. But overall, I don't see them being better than the Cubs. Obviously, the pitching staff is better. But I don't know. When I watch the Cubs play the Brewers, they always play them hard, and it's never an easy out, are the Cubs. And I've just always said that the Cubs just look like a better ball club than the Brewers. Now, obviously, if Yelich can turn it on and be a great hitter again, things will change, and we'll see. But I don't see the Brewers winning more than 81 ball games, especially after shipping off Josh Hader. So the back end of the bullpen could be shaky, but, Devin Williams was able to come in and pitch really well in that spot. Moving on, we're going to head to Cincinnati Reds, who won 62 ball games last year and traded almost, all of their star players. Brandon Drury isn't a star, but he led them in WAR, and he was shipped off. Kyle Farmer is no longer on the team. Tyler Stevenson is a good player, 1.45 WAR last year. But Tyler Mahle and Luis Castillo, they're 2 top dogs over the last couple of years, have been shipped out. And now it's Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green to take over. And they're very young, talented pitchers who have bright futures ahead of them. Joey Votto is still on the team, and Joey's been trying to reinvent himself as a ball player as he ages. And, obviously he's soon to be Hall of Famer when he finally hangs it up, but he's still a few years away from that. This is a team that's going to struggle, no doubt. They're projected to win, like I said, 70 games. They'll probably win 70 games. But they do have the 4th best minor league system in baseball right now. Ellie De La Cruz is a top 10 prospect, and he looks to be just an awesome player, but he's a few years away from reaching the big league level. They have had some trouble getting their minor leaguers up to the big leagues and performing. Nick Senzel was a guy that a lot of people liked just a few years ago, and he hasn't really found it yet. But Ellie, 21 years old, made it to Double-A last year, and played really well. So we might see him this season at some point. Um, I don't think we'll see him till at least mid-season. Um, but they got Nole Marte from the Seattle Mariners in the Luis Castillo trade. He's an awesome prospect as well. Number two in their system. Last year between high A, well, he played at two different high A's in 115 games, slash 279, 371, 458. He played great defense as well. So the Reds are really building something special there in the middle of the diamond. They also drafted Cam Collier, 18th overall this past draft. And he played really well in rookie ball, 9 games, 370, 514 OBP, and a 670 or 630 slugging. Somebody that they're really counting on to be one of their better players in the next couple of years. But Cam is 18, and he's a few years away. So I mean, that's the Reds are a team of we're a few years away. Talk to us again here in a couple of years, and same goes for the Pirates, who are projected to be dead last in the division with 68 wins. They went out and made moves that signal that they're going to just try and trade a couple of guys at the deadline. They brought in Vince Velasquez and Rich Hill, and I don't think they'll be on the squad come season end. But they do have two players who could really break out this year. The first being Brian Hayes, 3-point WAR last year, 26 years old, former first-round pick. And if he can really turn it on, this is somebody who can be a franchise player. Things haven't gone so well. 86 OPS plus in 2021 and an 87 OPS plus in 2022. He just hasn't really hit for power yet, and the on base hasn't materialized over the last 2 years. He has a collective OBP of 315. So if he can strike out a little bit less and work a few more walks, this is a guy to really keep an eye out for, and could be the face of their franchise for the next couple of years. And then somebody else to look out is Mitch Keller. Now, I know saying Mitch Keller is somebody to look for, and when he has a career ERA of 5. But at the end of last year, Mitch found something. He ended the year with a ERA just under 4 with a 3.91. And I'm not saying this guy's be a Cy Young winner, but it just seems like something clicked for him going into August. Things weren't great. From the start of the year till August, started 18 games and hit an ERA at 4.37, which is not bad, but it's not great either. And for a guy who was a top prospect at one point, you really hope that this guy can turn it around and obviously be an all-star. But from August to the end of the year, Mitch found something, and I can't tell you what it was, but as a Cub fan watching him, it just seemed like he was doing something a little bit different. The final 11 games he started had a 3.10 ERA. He struck out 51 guys in 58 innings. He's poised to have a really solid year, and if he can turn it on, 26 years old, and he's got a lot of baseball ahead of him, so things could be really well for Mitch Keller heading into 2023. So overall, the Central, both Centrals really, when you talk about AL and NL, the NL Central isn't particularly great outside of the Cardinals. Cardinals will be a playoff team, and we'll probably win 90 games. Obviously, we'll be a contender, but don't count out the rest of the division. There's some good players on these squads, and they're going to fight and whatnot. But like I said, there's be the Cardinals, the Cubs, the Brewers, the Reds, and the Pirates. But we are going to see a lot of high-level prospects come up. As I noted, all 5 teams are top 15 in baseball when it comes to their farm systems, and 4 of those teams are in the top 10. So we're going to see a lot of high-level players come up. And, right now this division might be one of the weaker ones, but if all these prospects come up and turn into something special, it could be a murderer's row in the Central. I'm excited as a Cub fan to see what my Cubs do. The Central is definitely going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on for. I don't think it's as cut and dry as many people think. So let me know your thoughts. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know who you think will win the NL Central and whether or not my Cubs are going to win the amount of games I think they are. Or maybe the Reds do better than many people think. So let me know. Once again, thank you so much for listening to the Aces Let's Do It podcast. I've been your host, Dominic Archer. Peace.